I thought I understood ISO. I thought it was just how sensitive a camera sensor is to incoming light, and that using the lowest ISO setting possible would give you the nicest image with the lowest noise. But I was wrong about both, in a way that led me to do the exact opposite of what I should have been doing when taking photos or videos. In fact, once you've set the shutter speed and aperture, the best practice is to use the highest acceptable ISO setting, not the lowest. And based on how long into my photography journey it took me to learn this, I bet a lot of other people are confused too. ISO in digital cameras is, in general, shockingly misunderstood. At a practical level, ISO is just one of several settings that changes the brightness of an image, like the duration of the exposure, or the size of the lens's aperture, or brightening the image after the fact with image editing software. But the ISO setting isn't like shutter speed or aperture, nor is it like digital brightening. It has a unique place in the middle of the journey from light to image. A key source of the confusion, and also a big reason to care about your ISO settings, is that images taken at high ISO settings often have a lot of ugly digital noise and related image quality issues that can be bad enough to render images unusable. And because of the association between noise or graininess and higher ISO settings, you'll often hear recommendations to try to keep the ISO setting as low as possible to avoid this noise. But this advice represents a gross misunderstanding of what ISO is and how it works. It is true that lowering the ISO setting will reduce the apparent noise in your photo, but it will also darken the image along with it. And in fact, in most cases, lowering the ISO setting will darken the image more than it reduces the noise, which means if you digitally brighten the image later, the noise will appear worse than if you would just use a higher ISO setting in the first place. So don't blindly listen to recommendations to keep the ISO setting low, because a high ISO setting isn't what's creating the noise. Also, you might have noticed I've been saying ISO setting rather than ISO. It turns out that the setting labeled ISO in most cameras is not technically adjusting the ISO, but is doing something else. I'm planning another video on the disaster that's the actual technical definition of ISO in digital cameras. Look for that if you really want to dive into the weeds. Okay, so here's what the ISO setting is doing, why it's special, and why it works differently than many of us have been told. Digital cameras do two fundamental things: turn photons of light into analog electrical signals, and then turn those electrical signals into data, a digital list of ones and zeros. More specifically, though still way oversimplifying, after passing through a camera lens, light hits the photosites arrayed on an image sensor, which absorb the light and turn it into an electrical voltage for each pixel. Those analog voltages are typically then amplified somewhat before being measured and converted irreversibly into digital data which is processed and stored in a file that can be digitally manipulated and displayed as an image on a device. The ISO setting doesn't change the amount of light coming into the camera. That's affected by what you point the camera at, what lighting you have, what kind of lens you use, how big the lens aperture is, and how long the exposure lasts. And the ISO setting doesn't change how many photons are absorbed by the sensor, or how many electrons they knock free to generate voltage, even though for most of my photography life, I thought that's what ISO meant. If you do want the sensor to be more or less sensitive to photons, you basically have one option: get a different sensor, which typically means getting a different camera. But after the photons are absorbed and converted into a voltage by the sensor, and before that analog voltage gets permanently digitized into ones and zeros, that in-between time is the window where the ISO setting typically comes in. For the vast majority of digital cameras, ISO simply means voltage amplification. Essentially, it turns up the volume on the voltage coming out of the sensor so that it's easier to measure accurately and convert into digital ones and zeros. And that's it. But why is amplifying the electronic signal different from just brightening the digital file afterwards? In a perfect world, it wouldn't be different. But the problem is the world isn't perfect, and the process of taking analog voltages and converting them into digital ones and zeros, using what's creatively called an analog to digital converter, this process can be a big source of the visual noise and inaccuracies you see in a digitized image. If you brighten the digital file afterwards, you're brightening everything: the image, the intrinsic noise from the sensor, and the noise added from the analog to digital converter. In contrast, analog electronic amplifiers introduce much less noise, and the position of the ISO setting amplifier in the signal chain is crucial. It brightens just the original image and the intrinsic sensor noise before the noise from the analog to digital conversion is introduced, so that, relatively speaking, the noise from the digital conversion is less prominent. In most digital still and video cameras, even when shooting in RAW, changing the ISO setting means changing the analog amplification, which allows you to make the signal going into the analog to digital converter as large as possible to minimize the effect of the analog to digital converter's noise. Well, this is the case most of the time, though even within a single camera, sometimes changing the ISO setting changes the amplification, and sometimes it just does digital stuff. It's complicated. We can get into this at the end of the video in the caveats. Anyway, ISO is kind of like how if I stretch out the surface of this balloon, I can magnify the drawing on it before I take my photo and get way better results than I would by first taking the photo and then digitally amplifying or zooming in on it. Or it's like if an audio signal is passing through a system that has a background hiss, it's best to turn up the volume on the signal before the hiss gets added, rather than after, when you'd also be turning up the volume of the hiss. The reason so many people incorrectly warn against using high ISO settings is because images with bad noise are often taken using high ISO settings, but this is a confusion of cause and effect. Raising the ISO didn't create the noise. It was darkness that both required the use of high ISO and that creates a noisy image. Images taken in darkness or with low light have noise for two main reasons. First off, light is made up of particle-like photons, and if you have photons hitting a grid of pixels in a uniform but random way, just by chance some of the pixels will receive more photons than others. This is physically inherent noise in an image that you can't get rid of, other than by adding more light so that the variation in the number of photons is small relative to the total amount of photons. And second, sensors aren't perfect, and there's some inherent variability in their pixel sensitivity. Plus, pixels can spontaneously generate voltages even when in complete darkness. This is called dark noise or thermal noise, which you can see in a photo with a lens cap on. Thermal noise can be reduced by cooling the sensor you have, or using a different sensor altogether. The end result is that a dark image coming off of a sensor will unavoidably have noise, and the analog to digital converter will unavoidably introduce noise, and the goal is to brighten the image while brightening as little noise as possible. The best way to do that, without adding more incoming light, is by increasing the ISO, that is, amplifying the voltages, before the additional noise from the analog to digital converter is added. Essentially, if you set the ISO to be very high, the image itself, together with the intrinsic noise from the sensor, will dominate over the noise from the analog to digital conversion and result in an image that's mostly the image. But if you set the ISO to be very low, the digital noise introduced from the analog to digital conversion dominates. So from an image quality perspective, it's almost always going to be better to use a higher ISO setting rather than leave it low if you have no other options to get more light. The darkest shadows of an image will have their noise reduced by turning up the ISO. In fact, some people advocate for overexposing photos or videos by turning up the ISO as much as you feel comfortable and then darkening them afterwards to get the best image quality. This requires both knowing how not to actually and irretrievably overexpose the image and how to correctly darken it after the fact, which is easy if you're recording raw file types, but it's more difficult or potentially impossible if you're not. And there is one scenario where using a high ISO setting can cause an image to be too noisy. If you set the ISO first, then adjust the aperture and shutter speed afterwards. In that case, the high ISO makes the image look brighter, which incorrectly encourages you to change the other settings to compensate and reduce the amount of light hitting the camera's sensor. And that low amount of light causes noise. So please set the ISO last. Okay, so what are the practical implications to actual real-world photography and videography? If your image is too grainy, here are the steps to take. The first step is to add more light to reduce the intrinsic noise from the sensor capturing the image. This could mean lighting your subject better, or increasing exposure time, or the size of the aperture in your camera settings. Once you've decided on the amount of light you're going to let hit the sensor, step 2 is to amplify the voltage coming from the sensor. That's the ISO setting in most cameras. And to amplify that voltage as much as you can without making the image so bright that important areas become irretrievably overexposed. I should be very clear that you don't want to just arbitrarily set the ISO setting as high as possible, because even though you'll gain detail in the dark parts of the image, you'll irretrievably lose all information in the bright parts that overwhelm the analog to digital converter and are just recorded as pure white. My favorite way to do this is to set the shutter speed and aperture manually, but leave the ISO set on automatic. That way I can make the creative choices I want with shutter speed and aperture. Maybe I want a fast shutter speed to capture a bird in flight, or a small aperture so that more of the image is in focus. And then the camera automatically adjusts the ISO as high as possible, given those settings and the light available, without overexposing the image. The point is, first, control the light hitting the lens, which comes from lighting. Then control the light hitting the sensor, which comes from aperture and shutter speed. Then control the voltage hitting the analog to digital converter, which comes from ISO. Then adjust the ones and zeros, which you do in Photoshop or in color correction or whatever. And that is how using a higher ISO gives you a better image. Lots of people love taking photos of wildlife where I live, and often that admiration of nature goes hand in hand with hunting ethically to provide food for their families. But so much of our meat today comes from nasty factory farming practices. It doesn't have to be this way, which is where FarmKind, this video's sponsor, comes in. FarmKind works to help end factory farming and improve the lives of animals by researching, collaborating, and recommending the very best charities who work against animal cruelty in farming, which conveniently also helps the environment and protects the health and safety of our food supply. And the results are measurable. One of FarmKind's recommended charities, the Humane League, works to end the practice of keeping egg-laying hens in their cages for life. Together with FarmKind, they've successfully pushed companies like McDonald's, Nestle, and Walmart to commit to cage-free eggs, and the numbers bear that out. US cage-free hen numbers have risen from 4% in 2008 to over 40% today. FarmKind doesn't take a single penny from your donation. It passes 100% on to the charities helping end factory farming practices. If you sign up for just 50 cents a day, which is $15 a month, you'll save 350 animals a year from unnecessary suffering. And if you use the code minute_physics, they'll boost your monthly donation up to 50%. Check out the description for more info. Thanks, FarmKind. Okay, so caveats. First, different ISO settings in different cameras don't always adjust the analog voltage amplifier the same amount. For some cameras, some ISO settings are mostly digital adjustments, while others are true analog gain. The website Photons to Photos has some great data on a huge number of digital cameras, and by looking at the shadow improvement chart for your camera, you can see which ISO settings are actually worth using. Like on my camera in video mode, increasing up to ISO 800 results in big image quality improvements, but after that point the camera is mostly just using digital adjustments to brightness. Caveat 2. Sometimes in log profile modes in video recording, camera manufacturers change the ISO numbers in the camera settings without changing the gain. Again, on my camera, the lowest ISO setting is 100 in photo mode, but in the log video mode, it starts at ISO 800. But it's clear from testing that ISO 800 in the video mode is actually the exact same gain as ISO 100 in photo mode, and 1600 in video mode is the same as 200 in photo mode, etc. For reasons I don't totally understand, the camera interface is showing a different number for the same gain. Caveat 3. The ISO setting on some digital cameras, notably red cinema cameras, is completely disconnected from the analog gain and only affects the image after digitization, treating the camera sensor like film of a fixed sensitivity. In this case, there's no difference between changing the ISO setting or digitally brightening the image afterwards. And to make things more complicated, some cameras even have extended ISO ranges that have a mixture of settings with genuine amplification before digitization, but with added extra filler settings between or beyond these that are just digital adjustments. Okay, caveat 4. There's a misconception that you can change the ISO of a raw image or video after the fact. It's raw after all. Except, if the ISO setting on your camera was adjusting the analog amplification, then that's totally not true, and this is the case for most cameras other than red cinema cameras and a few other exceptions. When you shoot in RAW, you can digitally adjust the apparent exposure in a physically accurate way, which is often labeled in software as an ISO adjustment, but in general it's not the same as adjusting the ISO setting on your camera, because the ISO setting on the camera is typically analog amplification that gets baked into the image when it's digitized.